Good morning and welcome. Here we go.
Hey, are you Ian Nethercott, the host of the Auto Hub Show?
War is tough, but peace is about thinking ahead of the challenges and getting it done.
There are lots of experts in automotive who talk about the problems. The Auto Hub Show is all about solutions. Ready for the solutions? Let's get this masterclass started live right now.
If you look at the last 4 years, Ian, we've answered 41 million phone calls for dealers over the last 4 years with our AI platform. We've also handled over 150 million text messages. And so when you look at just those raw numbers, that's a 4-to-1, 3.5, 4-to-1 text to phone call. So I don't know. Here's what I can tell you, though. I believe that the customer wants to be met where they are presently. If that is text, voice, video call, if they want to be engaged and engaged instantly.
I've been fortunate enough to be using Numa since square one, but my opinion, I like to meet the customers where they are, because if I choose my preference in terms of how I want to communicate with people, I'm going to eliminate a large portion of my potential customers. The customer calls in from the outside. There doesn't have to be a person on the other side of the conversation, and it will be a transcribed, recorded transcription of the message, which is important, and it's real time, 365 days a year. So we don't lose anything. The customers that prefer the phone and the customers that prefer the text may be two different people, but the nice thing about like Numa as an example is you got both of those people in one spot.
Hey, I'm Vince Delmonico, General Sales Manager with Cruise Ford Lincoln. Larry Feldman came out and did one of our training courses. Absolutely incredible. I sat through the course myself. The engagement that our salespeople gained from it, the excitement that he brings, it was a new way of looking at things that we're already doing and how we can improve them. Love it. It's literally the best thing since sliced bread.
My name's Fareed Ahmed. I'm the founder and CEO of DSMA. So why should you use DSMA to sell your most valuable asset? The answer is very simple. It's our unparalleled approach to our clients' needs and satisfaction. Remember, DSMA, we're real people doing real deals.
Meta, Instagram, social, and your team is still waiting for ups like it's 1999. Let's be honest, your market isn't watching TV commercials, they're double tapping and engaging with your competitors on social media posts. People are shopping these days for cars and servicing their vehicles in between watching cat videos. That's where we can help. Retail Resilient is the go-to authority for social selling in the car industry. Whether you're a new car franchise dealer, an independent, a buy here, pay here, a broker, a dealership owner or manager, we have something for you. Remember, when your lot is quiet, it means your social media is not loud enough. Check us out at retailresilient.com so we can retarget you on our social media feeds.
Good morning. Welcome. So I just wanted to start with, I guess everyone's back from NADA. Hopefully everybody's recovered. And we have a lot of people on the show today, which is great. The first question is, what did you learn about AI and auto in 2026? Let's start with the first person on this morning, which was Travis Miller.
Well, hey there, Ian. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And, for me, what really stands out to me is the ubiquity of AI in auto. It's all over everything, right? There's nothing subtle about it. And, the challenge I think that presents is that it sort of like it risks not being an advantage for dealers when all dealers have the same tools. Right. And so, maybe a year ago, there were some unique advantages that could be derived from implementing AI at the dealership. But now that it's so prevalent and common, I think that it diminishes the opportunity for it to be a unique advantage. And the other risk, I think, is that AI seems to expand. It threatens to diminish the difference between dealerships, the uniqueness between dealerships. And a big part of what I'm always talking about is how dealerships can create preference for themselves, like why customers should choose them over other options. And AI has a tendency to work against that because, you know, I like to say that AI is sort of like center of the bell curve thinking. So as everybody applies AI to their businesses in their dealership, they're going to get very close to the center of the bell curve output results thinking. It has a tendency to homogenize thoughts, homogenize output. And I think it increases the risk of homogenizing dealerships, which, you know, of course, is a bad thing for dealers.
Interesting. So, Larry, I know you guys don't work with any car dealers on the AI front, but I guess my question for you, I mean, obviously you spoke to a lot of dealers at NADA. I was actually at the NUMA booth at the show, so I saw the lot of interest. What did you learn from NADA in the AI side from dealers and obviously from your own team?
Well, yeah, our third NADA as an AI provider, it was interesting because obviously we knew that that was going to swell this year and that, you know, everybody's going to have AI within their name or within what they do. But, you know, I think dealers in general in the past, you know, two NADAs that we attended, you know, looked at AI kind of as a gadget. I mean, we had lots of traction. You know, we had 350, 400 visitors, unique visitors, meaning dealerships, come through the booth. This year was over 600 unique dealerships that came through the booth. But the sentiment of the dealer was that, you know, AI is real. They really want to know how to embed it into the workflows to keep their business running. You know, obviously answering almost 60 million missed calls for dealerships now over the past 40 years. You know, communication is huge, and seeing that kind of lost communication over, you know, 1,250, 1,300 rooftops, there are a lot of missed opportunities that embedding those workflows into your daily process can safety net. So, and I think dealers finally realize AI is not a gadget, right? Like it is a legitimate business tool for operating your dealership on a daily basis.
Fantastic. Ron, what do you think?
I mean, I kind of agree. It was everywhere at NADA, and when I say everywhere, I mean you couldn't miss it, right? And I think dealers are now realizing that it's actually something that they do have to embrace. And they're asking questions like, you know, how does it integrate with my DMS, or how does it integrate with my CRM? Will it work with my service scheduler? Right? They're asking the right questions. I think they're being pulled in a lot of different directions from a lot of different vendors, if you will, because there are so many different offerings and so many different types of AI. So we dealers tend to put AI into this one bucket, and it is not a single bucket, right? There's a lot of different uses, applications, types, and I don't think that they're fully aware of that. I mean, some of them, there's a few very smart ones out there that have done their homework and done their research. But overall, there needs to be a lot more done, because what's happening now is they're adding these tools that have AI built into them that don't necessarily talk with each other. So you have AI conflicts starting to pop up now, and that's what we're seeing on our side is, you know, how do I turn this chat bot off that's tied to AI when I want my chat to take over, right? Or the AI chat to take over. So you're seeing some of these conflicts start to happen. And I think what's going to happen eventually is they're going to find the smartest AI that integrates all AIs and is built from the ground up, right? That is a synergistic approach to using AI for your dealership, not just a piecemeal approach where we're going to try this for lead source and this for carrying out this task. And like I said, I think it all comes down to education, and I think they're educating themselves more and more these days because they're more aware of it and they're seeing what's out there and what's happening in the space.
Thanks for that. Dave, did you learn anything about AI at NADA 2026?
Well, yeah, it was. I'll just support everything that's been said so far about what happened at NADA. It was taking over the show, but probably rightly so. I think having been in the quote unquote AI space for a long time, we realized that the impact on dealerships was going to be phenomenal when it was fully embraced. And I think what the big learning for me for this past year is that dealers have finally started to understand that it's not really a product, it's not a gadget, it's not a toaster that you go buy, but it's part of the infrastructure. And this issue that Ron brought up about, different parts trying to take over and having conflicts there. I think that's not so much of an issue with AI. It's a issue that dealers have traditionally looked at lots of point solutions, and there's always been conflicts between who's sending the text, who's sending the email, or whatever. Now this is just creates another opportunity for conflict to occur when dealers use point solutions. So, the big takeaway for me that, hey, it's part of the infrastructure now. It's going to be built into virtually everything that you're using there, and so you need to look at platforms and not products anymore. And I would just something that Travis said, I agree. It may not necessarily be an advantage for the dealer, but if you're not embracing it, but statistics say, even though it's in the middle of the bell curve, it says that 50% of dealers are below average, by definition. And so if you're not, so it's a checkbox item now. If you don't have an AI system that works for you and makes the job of your customers, to get service or to buy a vehicle easier, then you're at a competitive disadvantage. You may not get an advantage out of it, but you're going to be at a disadvantage if you don't embrace it.
Fantastic. We got Travis Miller on. Go ahead, Travis.
Oh, you want to hear from me twice?
Oh no, you're sorry. Sorry, we've got Adam Guillory.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead, Adam.
Well,
sorry.
I want to just touch back on what Ron and Dave said. I think that everyone keeps looking at AI as a thing. It's a lot like electronics. When we added electronics, suddenly tractors were different, cars were different. All these things that were mechanical became electronic and mechanical. And I think AI is the same thing. I want to kind of hit on the big misfire we saw in 2025. The big misfire was missing the fundamentals of a dealership, where dealers applied AI as to create more friction between customers buying cars instead of removing friction, in the hopes of freeing up salesmen and BDCs so they didn't have to do as much work. And over again, as I've interviewed dealers, they got BDC people standing around with nothing to do, and an AI accidentally telling customers that the car is ready for a test drive, when if AI could have looked out the window, it would have seen that the car is being prepped to be bought, or it's already on a test drive, or it's a loaner that's out in the service fleet. So it had bad data. And so I think it was a huge misfire in 25 for a lot of dealers to say, well, look, I put AI in place, and then I failed all my mystery shops from the factory. And I think the misfire started with, what are we using AI to do? Are we going to make it easier for our customers to buy cars, or are we making it easier for our sales team to handle leads? So we saw a huge piece there. The other huge element, and kind of where we're all going with this, AI is going to change from us using crappy software to talk to computers to using AI to write perfect software to talk to computers. And so platforms, software, all of this is kind of a middle step, or at least the industry feels this way, between us saying, okay, I've got an RO, please write it up, look at this guy's car, tell him when it's ready, tell my mechanic what he needs to know, and let me know when I need to do something. And then letting the AI run that show. We're years away from there. We may be years away from other industries because our software doesn't talk well already with each other. I think the last big, huge misstep that I think everyone has missed is we've left ourselves vulnerable for AI leads. These AI tools are grading our dealerships. They're trying to search our inventory, and they're trying to send customers to the, quote, most qualified dealership. And the vast majority of the websites we're using are actively blocking this process, while the third parties are optimizing everything to kind of be the new middleman. Just like when the internet showed up, all these third parties showed up to sell us internet leads instead of dealerships actually just embracing the internet. So that's a huge vulnerability we see going into 26.
Thanks for that. Valen? You're muted. Hey, go ahead.
Yeah, I fully agree with what Dave said. Like, there are so many solutions out there. We saw so many solutions at data. And what we were able to observe were like two things: a major gap and a major confusion. The gap is in terms of adoption of AI from the dealer's side. So consumers every day, they have embraced AI at the maximum, pretty much. They use AI for the personal lives. They use AI at work. They use AI for everything, right? but there is a gap here, and the gap is in terms of the AI adoption from the dealer side. The consumers are expecting AI to help them to buy a car, but when they go to the dealer website, they are not seeing AI. They're seeing a website from like 2015, 2016, and they're kind of like confused. But so are confused also the dealers, because dealers are actually realizing that AI is fundamentally important. But they are realizing that AI is important at a time where AI has just become a commodity, not a hype anymore. And what this means is that there are so many solutions on the market, especially now that everybody can vibe code a solution, that dealers are just confused. What should I do? What should I pick? What should I prioritize? And this confusion is actually going to delay bridging this gap that is in AI adoption when it comes to dealers. So what I think is fundamentally important for us is to be able to extend a hand to the dealers and help them to figure out what to prioritize, how to prioritize, and what metrics to measure when they want to decide to adopt a solution, a specific solution, because the market is flooded with solutions because of vibe coding. And this is creating a major confusion from the dealer side, which obviously creates a decision fatigue. It delays a decision. It creates a choice paralysis. What should I pick? What should I buy? What should I adopt? What is important to pick? So I think it's fundamentally important during this part, during this process that we are here, to help dealers who are listening on how they should pick and how they should prioritize and what they should measure when they adopt a specific AI solution for their business.
Fantastic. So we got Larry Feldman. I know you're very tech savvy. What did you learn about AI at the show?
Well, let me bounce to a couple points. Travis, you were saying that since everyone has AI, no dealer has an advantage. Let me flip that on its head. If you go into every dealership in America, you have one salesman making $150,000 and one guy who can't make a living saying this place is terrible. It's not a matter of an advantage. It's a matter of what you use to your advantage. So the same dealers that mishandled every other aspect of their dealership will mishandle AI. It's really not complicated. And Valen, I've learned, I was a dealer. I'm a vendor in over 100 dealerships now. I've been a salesman. To not make a decision is to make a decision. To decide to do nothing, it can be more deadly than deciding, because things slide all around you or go to hell while you're procrastinating or staring out the window. As far as AI, I'm a pretty good talker. That's why I was good as a salesman, and I drive everybody around me crazy because I talk a lot. But you've got a lot of people on this planet that are not articulate. The iPhones haven't helped. We no longer know how to spell. We no longer know how to make eye contact, and we're terrible listeners. AI can translate things and make them really smooth and beautiful. And as long as there's a human being tied in with it, I think it's the greatest thing you could ever see. I've always said that it needs to be a tool rather than a crutch. I don't know how long some of you guys have been, and I've been in the business forever. And when I first got in, they started to print inventories. It was just on a white piece of computer paper. And the salesman would say, "Oh, you want some car? Yeah, sit down. Let me pull the inventory out, show it to you." They didn't use it as a tool. They used it as a crutch, which made no damn sense, because we all know 4 out of 5 people buy something other than what they come in with. And if you get them out looking, they may go, "Hey, what's that one?" So it's the same thing. As long as there's a human being, as long as you can inspect and expect and tie it in, I think it's going to do fabulous things. But it's like everything else. If it's used right, it makes sense. I'm a sales trainer, and I recruit for all positions. And it's just so silly to me that everywhere I go in the country, I find salespeople that think it makes more sense to stand by the door and wait for a stranger to come in than to prospect. Even though when you prospect, your percentage of close goes up by about 5 times, and your gross goes up, and you start to control. So it's like everything else. The tool makes incredible sense. It can make our lives easier. It can help us track things. It's how we implement it and who's watching to make sure it's being done carefully.
Thanks for that. So we have Matthew Groden, formerly of Google. Matthew, what's your opinion on AI in auto in 2026 after NADA? What do you think?
Just coming at it hot.
Yeah, I'm doing what I can.
I mean, I think there are many companies who are using AI in various capacities, but I think we're still scratching the surface here. This is tip of the iceberg kind of stuff. There's, I mean, it's such an aggressive space, and things are changing so quickly. And in many of the tools, many things that I see that are not in automotive, more impressive than the tools I see that are in automotive. We're always a little behind for some reason, and that's usually more a function of the size of dev teams. But soon we won't need dev teams, so that won't be a problem. Soon the agents will do most of this coding on their own. So I think we, from the dealers I speak with, they don't know what to do. Like, they don't know what's what. They struggle to answer the phone. They struggle to answer the phone, let alone figure out what AI they should be using in their dealership. Groups don't have policies on AI. Even corporations don't have policies on AI, or do, and then that hamstrings the organization. I think this will be a telling year. I think it's almost like you should do a December AI recap, Ian, because I think a lot is going to happen in the next 10 or 12 months. And I'm not, I'm not fear mongering on it's going to take over the world and we're all going to be out of jobs. I don't think that's going to happen. But the impacts that are, the things that are possible, the things that we can do with just off the shelf versions of ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, depending on whether you're French or not, are very impressive on their own. It's almost like I was having a conversation with a company that was building out a tool and layering in some large language model, machine learning type capability to it, and I was like, you have no competitive edge. Like, you have no competitive edge. If ChatGPT can basically do all of this, or do a version of this well enough, why would I pay for your tool when I can just subscribe to ChatGPT?
Right. Yeah. So there's lots of decisions there, lots of things to make. But how do you, Peter? You haven't said anything yet. So Peter, what's your thought on? Thanks for that, Matthew. What's your thought on what you learned? I mean, you were kicking around talking to lots of AI companies, I'm sure. What do you think?
I spoke to a lot of dealers and I spoke to a lot of the companies out there. And the one piece I always go back to, because our background is with marketing and database, it all goes back to the data. And that's one of the biggest mistakes. All these AI solutions are great. And I think Larry hit on a couple key points several other people talk about. It's how they implement them and how they work together at the store. But at the end of the day, if the dealer doesn't start with a good foundation of their data, and I think that's the mistake I'm going to call out from these AI companies, because the AI companies, I don't feel, understand just how bad the dealer's data actually is in some cases. So they're taking what they're thinking is they're used to working with other industries where the data is clean. They don't realize how dirty the car dealer's data is in their DMS and in their CRM. And they're not doing, I think, in my opinion, a great job of cleaning the data before they implement it into the tool. So whatever the tool is, I think we need to go back to one basic step. We have to make sure that the data that they're using for all of this AI marketing and all this wonderful, great stuff that AI can do, we have to make sure that we get the good customer records. We know that John Smith bought a Ford F-150 and he hasn't had the car in for service in 3 months. We have to have those kind of key points before we start sending out marketing messages, because I'm seeing a lot of consumers complaining online that they're getting marketing messages about their EV needing an oil change. Yeah, a little bit of a mistake. Goes back to bad data. So I think the data is also a very important part in any AI conversation we have to have.
Well, that's an interesting question. We did a show a while ago on dirty data. I think it was earlier in the month. And I guess my question, let's start with Larry Stanley. Larry, as you are a call rescue platform, can the AI clean up the data as the people call in?
Ours can. So using, context learning with all the communication, because we don't just rescue calls. We are looking at every conversation that happens between a client and a team member, right? Outbound call, text messaging, voicemail, 100% of it. So with that context in the AI learning, and like I said, Numa is a priority. It's its own AI. Okay, we run 17 AIs underneath Numa to be able to do this. So I think programmers are still going to be a necessity. That's why we have 60 of them. Again, like you said, Matthew, in the future, probably, there'll be more product developers but with that context, like I said, just a simple example, like, when I call in to schedule an appointment, whether it be with us or Blink or whatever, appointment scheduling solutions are out there, which there are a million of them, knowing that customer doesn't have that vehicle anymore versus saying, oh, are you calling about your 2006 Ford F-350? Well, no, I traded that in 10 years ago, right? Like, the data is important. And obviously having the authorized integrations that we do with every single DMS, we don't use a third-party integration for anything. We're constantly looking at the DMS data to make sure that we're not offering up bad data. I think I gave this example on another show, but I have a Mercedes Sprinter van, 2022. I keep getting a text from Mercedes, from the dealership here in Nashville, saying, hey, your 2021 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter warranty is up. Would you like to extend it? If so, contact the dealership, right? Well, number one, I don't have a 2021 Sprinter. I have a 2022, right? It's not a half-year model. It is a 2022. And I have a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty on the vehicle. I already have an extended warranty. So that's that communication as a client that is going to cause defection, right? I'm going to be like, stop, or I'm going to be like, block, right? And now where are you at, Mr. Dealer? Because now you can't communicate with me anymore.
Right.
So data is key, guys. And again, a simple AI agent has no access to that data.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. Dave Perry, you want to comment on clean, dirty data?
Yeah, I love commenting on clean and dirty data. It is a huge problem. Everybody agrees to that. And we say we need to fix it. It's unclear, how you do that. I mean, there's a lot of, inside of a dealership, there's lots of systems of record. It's not just the DMS, it's across the board. So it may be the CDP, the CRM, there's lots of systems of record. And over the years, this data accumulates and it's got lots of hands on it. And so, yeah, there's a lot of contributing causes to why that data is dirty. And I think that, one of the things that AI can do is not rely on a single source of information. You've got to triangulate across a number of sources. So when you're looking at quote unquote AI solutions, if you're finding something that's only connected to the DMS, you're just stuck with that problem. So you got to be able to say, look, I'm integrated across the board, not just with the DMS, but with the drive softwares, with the CRMs and third-party data sources. So that now you can look at several, and AI is really good with, what we call kind of fuzzy logic, right? Incomplete information. It can make inferences off of that. And it can then make inferences off the fact that there is dirty data and make decisions based on that. So there's a lot of ways to mitigate it at the platform layer, but ultimately, if we don't stop putting dirty data in or doing things inside the dealership from a process standpoint to make sure that the data is clean, or if incorrect information gets put in early or at some point, that it gets corrected quickly. But I think this is actually a testament for AI, because you can mitigate for the fact that knowing that there's dirty data, there's things that you can do to make sure that customer experience doesn't suffer as a result of that.
Thanks for that. Travis, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a thorny problem, obviously. I agree with Dave that AI systems are good with fuzzy logic and, making inferences. But it also seems like there should be a single source of truth for a system to rely on. If Larry Stanley, if that dealership system, one system thinks you got a 2021 Sprinter and the other system thinks you got a 2022 Sprinter, which one's right? And obviously right now, the one that's reaching out has the bad data, right? But Look, I agree, and Peter brought up the point about data, and I think it's a big problem. I think it's a big issue, but I think that I think again the risk though, and Dave Perry and Larry Feldman, you guys said earlier, and I agree with exactly what you said. The way I think about it is that AI is essentially becomes table stakes for dealers. So when I say it has a risk of making dealers all look the same and not being a competitive advantage, that doesn't mean that I think that dealers should ignore it. I think that they need to embrace it, but it's only going to get you to the midpoint. So something's got to happen to get you beyond the midpoint into the upper quartiles, beyond that center of the bell curve. And maybe, Peter, you're exactly right. Maybe clean data is the thing that becomes a competitive advantage, or at least one vector that you can follow to create a competitive advantage in your dealership's integration of AI by being the store that actually uses it correctly and has good data. But I think that's going to come down to a single source of truth for a dealership. And unfortunately, I don't have that source or that answer. But that's a good problem for people to be working on.
Hey, Travis, if you think about it, I know our U.S. team beat the Canadian team. Sorry, anybody from Canada, but let me jump to basketball.
Basketball.
Get rid of this damn call. I'm a basketball player, and I'm a good basketball player, and I learned the fundamentals. And if you try to do something fancy before you do something basic, you're never going to get where you need to be. Yeah. Every dealership has a CRM. And everywhere I go, the GM grabs me and says, do me a favor, either use an electric cattle prod or a whip, but get these damn guys to put the information to the CRM. Now, what could be more basic, Travis, than putting your information in on your customer so you and your manager can track it? So now we've gone from a bicycle to an F1 racing car. Now you've got information that can do a million things right as long as you put in the right information. So, we've got a lot of pain points here because there's a lot of moving pieces, including people that touch these things. And you would think everybody would have an active brain that works, but most people don't. You walk into any dealership, you'll still see driver's licenses laying on tables, which is a huge fine. You'll see all kinds of violations that don't make sense. The last thing, and I'll get off this, I teach salespeople that they should go back when they're showing a car. Always take the people to service and say, by the way, if I'm lucky enough to earn your business, these are the great people that are going to be working on your car. Our oil changes and tire prices are the same as anybody else's. And by the way, because we use factory parts, you'll never avoid your warranty. Maybe we stop the leakage in the back. Yeah, but I guarantee you, not every dealership's even thinking along those lines. So this is an easy solution, an easy way to do more business in a more refined way and have more control. The problem is, who are the people inputting it, and how do we get them in line?
Well, Larry, I think that's an excellent point, and to extend on this, and I think you'll agree with me that fundamentally the car business is a people business, and what's at risk here in all of this work and all of this talk of data and technical solutions, the people element of our business is at risk of disappearing, and I don't think that that's accidental, honestly, but I can talk about that later. So, I want to see dealerships use AI to create a competitive advantage for themselves. And so one angle that I would take if I owned a dealership was to use AI to lean into the people element. And so to that regard, if the data is not clean, then let's not use the AI to talk about data because we can't trust it. Instead, let's use the AI to probe at the human level to understand better what issues the customers are facing, what's holding them back from buying, what anxieties or insecurities are preventing them from coming into the dealership. AI can do that, and it doesn't need good data to do that. So if you've got bad data, let's use AI to just be a better human. By the way, I think the same thing goes for salespeople, but salespeople seem to often struggle being a good human too, in terms of communication, good human communication. We often think of it as human to human. In fact, for 15 years, we've been teaching dealerships to think about human conversations. Right. The irony is that potentially there's an opportunity for the AI to create better human to human conversations than actually humans because it'll follow a process.
Travis, improve it, but AI still can't put its arm around you or smile at you and say, "Yeah, that happened to my brother-in-law. I know exactly how you feel."
100%, man. 100%.
It's got to be. It's got to be the two looped together. Mm-hmm. Because if it's just one or the other, you're in trouble. We have a term in the car business that's so ancient, I'm afraid to say it, I'll start creaking like a dinosaur with them. What's in it for me? Every manager, every salesperson works their pay plan. You can't get a certain line of car to sell, tell everybody it's $50 cash and watch how everybody's going to start selling that car. If we can show the WIFM for the salespeople and for the managers to explain to the salespeople that this will make your job easier, make your customers happy, I just think we have a general lack of understanding. And listen, I'm all pro salesman. I'm pro you folks. I hate people that slam their own industry. But every damn dealership right now has programs. And if you go to the salesmen and the managers and ask them if they all know the program, you're going to get a blank look. What program? And I guarantee you sales and service don't know the same program tied in. So I just think let's use this AI because it's magic with what it can do. But if we neglect the human part of this, we're dead.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, we had a comment from a gentleman, Zachary Kanopka, and he was talking about every dealer should be looking at top of funnel data, but also the real-time middle funnel data. And maybe I can get a comment on the what can be enhanced or what things are going to be changed with AI. Let's start with Matthew. Go ahead.
Well, I want to circle back to the
go ahead.
current conversation first,
Yeah.
and
I
think I think there's two things, and the one is, or maybe three. Maybe I won't stop talking. Stop me from talking at some point.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah. Number one, I would say that as long as there are people involved, the data is always going to be flawed.
Yeah.
And so there's no real way around that. Even in larger enterprises, I mean, the difference in a larger enterprise outside of a dealership, there will be somebody or a team or people who are just responsible for managing the data. You'll have a master data team, right? A big retail operation has an entire fleet, army of people, and all they do is make sure the data is in good shape, whether that's PII in the form of CRM data or whether that's product inventory data. We don't have that in a dealership. But I think the opportunity we have with, again, AI is that we can fill in the blanks, or we can identify the patterns where the data has been consistently wrong, or we can identify the people who entered data consistently wrong. And so in my mind, the opportunity when it comes to even a small business, a medium business dealership, and their ability to leverage AI and the right prompt to clean up their own data is massive, is huge. We just probably haven't been trained how to prompt it properly. I did some work just a little while ago, a few months ago, for an OEM here in Canada. And they gave me access to a bunch of data. And, I was awake. I had this idea in the middle of the night. It happens to me a lot. And I emailed them this email. And the subject of the email was answers to questions you didn't even ask. And what I did is I took an entire list of their dealership locations, and I took a bunch of their national search campaign data, and I melded it together, and I put it on a Google map through a series of prompts, basically asking ChatGPT to build a keyhole markup language file for Google Earth to say, show me what this looks like on a map. And what it did is it showed all of the places where their dealers were underserved by impressions. So I think there are ways, like there are tools, even in Google Sheets. I don't work at Google anymore, but I'm still pretty Google faithful. Between Google Sheets and BigQuery to allow Sheets to predictively fill in data where there are gaps, right? So I think this is just, this is an entirely solvable problem we just haven't bothered to solve. I also think relative to the conversation that Larry and Travis were having, we've kind of been down this path before, and people use the analogy, and I guess I'm going to use it right now, of bank machines. That the banks thought that once they deployed bank machines, they could remove people from the equations, that they would have fewer tellers. And what they learned is that the bank machine was really good at certain tasks, but that freed up their tellers. They needed to open up more locations, have more people, more staff to answer more complex questions. And I think the opportunity that's presented to us with AI at dealership is that we can have it do things that are receptionists or salespeople are bad at, like answer the goddamn phone. And those people can be responsible for other things that they feel good about doing, that they are doing, or that Larry doesn't have to beat anyone up anymore at a dealership to say, why aren't they doing this? Because they won't have to do it anymore, right? They can focus on more high value activities that they see value in, that they want to do. So I think the opportunity is not, yes, in some ways is that replacing people, but it's like replacing people the same way the robotics industry thinks about replacing people. The 3Ds of robotics, dumb, dirty, and dangerous. We're just going to remove dumb work from the equation, and we're going to let AI take over those tasks.
Thanks for that. We actually had a comment from Larry from Numa. I know bringing to the booth, overhearing 30 salespeople kept hearing the term human in loop. What does that mean? But we had to have comments from Adam and Valen and Ron. So let's start with Adam. Go ahead, Adam.
So I want to hit on a couple things. My biggest takeaway, though, so I'll get to that first. Yeah. Get your data out. Get your data out and get it somewhere where you can then feed it into an AI. It's actually very simple now. If you have all of your CRM data, all of your DMS data, all of your phone tracking data, to go to an AI and say, hey, match up my call tracking to my CRM leads so I know better where these leads are even coming from. And we're in an industry, and I don't think you guys realize this, but this was explained to me by a DMS provider once. He said, I don't think you realize the dealers aren't our customers. The factory's the customer, and the dealers get what doesn't conflict with what the factory wants. So you got these kind of 1980s multi-level management systems that are 20 years behind at all times, working with the software providers whose major element that they bring to the table is that connection with the factory. And then the side quest is, how do we keep the dealers happy so they don't leave? And so I have these meetings all the time with CRM providers. I'm like, look, I need the data. We need to be able to match this out. Like, give me a daily extract. Like, okay, well, it's a $10,000 setup fee, and then we're going to have about 7 meetings. Like, so you tell specifically what data you want and don't want, and each piece of data has a different price, and you can just pass these costs on to the dealer, and they can pay them too. If that's the results you're getting, you may want to start shopping and find somewhere you can get all the data out. Because like we're saying, we need clean data. Get it out. Step one, get it out. Get it in a way that you can move it. Because today, Claude is the smartest AI out there for this stuff. But it wasn't in November. It could be someone different in February. But having your raw data to then train these future AI models that may not exist yet is critical. And recognize that there's no reason for these third parties, the DMS providers, to just hand you the most valuable asset they have, which is the ability to talk to the manufacturer's 50-year-old software package. They don't want, so they'll get it if they're just dancing around actually letting your data come free. Take that for what it actually is. It's not a technical limitation.
Thanks for that. Valen, what do you think? You're muted, by the way. There you go.
When it comes to the metadata, I have a good news and a bad news. Okay. The bad news is that we're at the highest level, highest peak right now when it comes to metadata. One thing that is important to maybe realize is that AI is not just processing existing data, it's also creating additional data. It's generating additional data points. That's first, which means that we have the highest level of messiness when it comes to the market. First, second, there are so many solutions out there that they are not talking to each other. We mentioned appointment or scheduling solutions, chatbot solutions. There's so many other solutions out there that they are generating their own data, which means that we have more metadata than before. But the good news here is that fixing the data problem is 80% of the solution. When it comes to AI, building AI, 80%, it's putting in the data, processing the data, integrating the data, handling the data. The rest 20% is just training the models, fine-tuning them, and putting them in production. So this is the good news. When we solve the data part, we're also solving 80% of the AI adoption. The question here is this going to take place this year? Most probably not. Why? Because we need solutions that are going to process the data and handle the data and fix the data. But at the same time, there has to be also some sort of market consolidation when it comes to these solutions. What we need is a unified platform that unifies different solutions across the funnel so that these solutions, they talk to each other. When it comes to the data, we didn't talk a lot about the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel. We talked a lot about the bottom of the funnel. We talked a lot about the human error when inputting this data. Most of the data for dealers is generated at the top and middle of the funnel. We're talking about the user fingerprints, the click stream that they leave on the website, the interaction with the chatbot, the interaction with the emails, the interaction with the ads, with their social media campaigns. All of this data is fundamentally important. Only less than 1% of users who go to your website, they end up on your showroom floor, So this data is fundamentally important to be consolidated. What we also see in the market is that there is a huge gap between the data that is being generated and handled by salespeople on the showroom floor versus the data that is being left on the top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. So bridging this gap, providing this data, what the user, what the consumer is doing on the website to the salespeople when they are scheduled to meet with a customer in person for a test drive is fundamentally important, because the salespeople would actually have a understanding about what this person wants and what they did on the website before scheduling an appointment. And this is a huge gap. Bridging this gap is fundamentally important. But again, it comes down to the metadata. You have so many analytic solutions that track data on the website. You have so many chatbot solutions, so many call service solutions that they just don't talk to each other. So being able to bridge this gap is a major step, and handling the metadata obviously is 80% of the solution. So that's a good news.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I think to answer your question, Larry, and maybe I'm just sort of shooting from the hip here, is if the salespeople have the right data, that is the human side of it. If the service staff have the right data, that's the human side of it. What we're asking AI to do is do the stuff that either we're unwilling or unable to do based on staffing concerns. And that, with cleaner data, will solve the problem. I think when you look at it, I think everyone's looking for a magic bullet, but they're not really looking at what should be done by AI and what shouldn't be done. But go ahead, Ron. Thanks for that, Mel.
I think we got a little bit off track and going heavy into the data side of this, because there's a lot more to AI that we're talking about and that you asked us to talk about today.
Yeah.
And that has to be with things like, dealers are famous for picking up a shiny penny, right? They see something new in technology and they pick it up and they want it. So technological adoption is rapid. Human adoption is not, all right? And that's where there's a little bit of a disconnect that we see within the dealerships, because the humans are scared, all right? They hear big bad AI is coming to take my job. And that's not it. I mean, the dealers need to embrace AI for what it can do to their benefit, not to their detriment. And they need to be able to change the culture internally to get them to adopt it and play nice in the sandbox, if you will, right? And I think that's my interpretation. I mean, in the next year and a half, dealers are going to want AI that responds instantly to messages, that knows someone's service history, that can remember their previous conversations, can provide personalized benefits, right? What you don't ever want to have happen is you don't want to have the AI doing final deal negotiations or handling sensitive customer complaints. You don't want it to make any major financial decisions. And you don't want it to interrupt with the normal day-to-day stuff that makes a person endeared to that dealership, like the delivery process, right? People are happy, they close their deal, they want their new car. You don't want AI handling those things. You want the humans handling those, and you want the AI handling the things that the humans don't like to handle, like follow-up, all right? That is the biggest thing that we hear at 360 Auto AI is the lack of follow-up on the part of the sales team. Okay, it's different with service, and the teams at Blake and Nua do a great job with that, with booking that service appointment, right? Getting that customer in for the appointment. When the customer knows they have a problem and they want to get it handled, the AI is quite capable of booking that appointment without a human in the loop in a lot of cases, right? When it comes to sales, people don't book appointments the same way for a sales call as they do for a service. Service, they know they got a problem. They know they got to have an appointment to bring their car in. For sales, even if they're talking to an AI or talking to a chatbot, they're saying, I'll be in on Thursday afternoon. Okay, they're not saying I'm coming in at 3 o'clock on Thursday. All right, they're flexible because they know that you're always there for sales. So You have to learn to adopt it within your own showroom. You have to adopt AI within your own workplace and and the way you operate. I mean, if you want AI to handle a showroom up 3 days after that up, you give your customer 3 days to work on that lead and bring them in and close them. If not, then you have the AI doing the follow-up. That's great. That's a great use of it. Okay. If you want it to be speed to lead, that you really need some kind of an AI that will answer every form fill, every incoming lead from a third-party company like an auto trader or cars.com, you can do that right now and have response within a minute of that lead coming into the website. So it handles that immediate response if you don't have a BDC solution or a sales team that you think is capable of doing that. Because they can always be handled off, but it needs to be embraced from the standpoint of, let me work within your own dealership workflow. And you need to train your staff to say, hey, this is here, it's not going away. And you can use it to the best of your advantage, because this is going to give you the hot leads. This is going to give you the people that you really need to follow up and that really need to concentrate on, and not waste your time with the leads that you're never going to track down. The AI will do that. The AI will go after all those dead leads. The AI will go after the leads 5 weeks, 6 weeks down the line that your guys gave up on a week after they got the lead, right? And that's what happens. So the industry, the OEMs need to do some embracing of technology. I think that's got to come up, and there's got to be some kind of standardization going on. Right now, it's a free-for-all. But there are so many different types of AI that the dealers have to know what their problem is and what the solution is for that. Now, perfect example, we talked about human in the loop, and that's putting agentic AI in front of something. But what about things like AEO and GEO, right? So generative engine optimization for taking over what SEO would do. SEO is still SEO, you still need it. But generative engine optimization is a way to get people to recognize your dealership and refer your dealership in all those little short blurbs. And it's a totally different process to get the Google engines and all the other website engines to recognize that you're an authority and refer you, because you're feeding it the right information, and it's able to crawl your site and pick up that information and answer the questions that people are asking, right? So that's a totally different type of AI that every dealer should be thinking about right now. If your agency is not doing AEO, which is AI engine optimization, or GEO is what it's also called, generative engine optimization, means you're appearing in searches for ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and the like. By the end of this year, over 25% of all Google searches are going to go to that. Okay. And probably 50% in the next couple of years. So, it's going to be a different ballgame. And if you're not playing in that space, that's an AI you need to look at. So, like I said, there's a million different types of AI. And it's not just about the data, because you can even make your AI change what you say. Instead of trying to recognize a customer automatically by the phone number when they call back and having memory, you can say, hey, can I get your full name and your spelling and your email and your phone number? And you can have the AI prompt that in a very friendly way and get all that data. And then they can go back, and the AI is going to look into the CRM and know who this customer is and what their car is, right?
Thanks for that.
You could do that without, messing things up by bad data.
So we're almost out of time. So we got time for final thoughts. Let's start with Mr. Larry Stanley. How do you get dealers to embrace AI?
First of all, it has to work. Second of all, it needs to be easy to use. And you have to be able to show the results. Like if you don't have any accountability built into your AI to show, return on what you're looking to solve in your dealership, it's not a tool I would want to use in my stores. So just speaking from my own experience, right? Like I need to see the results. Like what did a campaign produce? What is my staff doing or not doing well when it comes to communicating with customers, right? So you got to have accountability, you got to have visibility, and you got to have some way of seeing the return. That's it.
Yep, fantastic. Travis.
We've talked a lot about there being so many options, and it's almost like a wilderness of mirrors out there for dealers, and it's very difficult to know what to choose from. my thoughts and my recommendation here would be to look for tools and to lean into tools that make your dealership more recognizable and not more replaceable. All right. And that's the core risk I think that exists. And a full embracing of AI tools, there is a huge pressure to make dealerships irrelevant in the landscape. And the more automated and the more outsourced everything becomes, the less integral a dealership even is to the process. And I think that's a risk. So I would lean into tools that make my dealership look more recognizable, help me create a better brand preference in the marketplace, give customers a reason to choose me over every other option.
Fantastic. Adam.
The first step I have all my dealers do is use AI on a live call to lay out the process of every step of the customer journey from lead to becoming, a service customer. And then we overlay on top of that what products we use at each step, and frankly, what our benchmarks are. So if our benchmarks for getting appointments set is 50% and we're always at 35%, then the only question is, will AI grow that number, maintain that number, or drop that number? But then, and we've kind of hinted at this, but now I've got a metric that I can look historically at what we've been able to generate and see if it improves. And then it's easy to swap things in and out and see if those numbers improve versus working off of their reports, which show all the wonderful things they've done that we have no visibility in. We're just taking the word on it.
Fantastic. Matthew?
I mean, I kind of start with, do they have Microsoft Office? It's software, right? Like it's software. If they have Workspace or Office, then somebody is already jamming AI down their throat. And the more you use those products, the more you use any product. I was turned on my TV yesterday. I have a Chromecast, Google TV, and there was Gemini on the home screen. So I think there's no escape. I think I don't think we're going to have to worry about getting them to use AI. I think we're going to have to worry about what they're using AI for. The adoption will take care of itself.
Thanks for that. Val?
100%, like all the guys said, like this makes a lot of sense, and it goes also in the direction of obviously don't rely on solutions that they are probably not going to exist in the near future, which mentioned, for example, Copilot or OpenAI solutions. These providers are losing the battlefield very badly. They actually were the pioneers, but now they're losing it. So start relying more on solutions like Gemini and Claude, for example. We can see how the market is going and how the trend is going. One important thing to consider is that don't go after flashy solutions. You don't need that. AI is not here to replace your salespeople, replace your marketing team, replace your employees. AI is here and it's going to be here to assist them, to make their job better, which means that when you look for a solution to adopt, there are two important things to consider. First of all, is this going to save you time, or is this going to create or generate additional dollars for you? These are the two metrics that you should be asking from the vendor. That's first. And second, what also Larry said, I completely agree. If this solution that you want to adopt doesn't provide accountability on a daily basis or weekly basis on how much money or time you save, you don't want to implement that solution, because the time is over for paying 10, 20, 30 grand a month for an analytics solution without accountability. I think the market has matured enough that these days they're asking for actions, they're asking for results, and not just analysis or analytics. So yes, start asking for accountability from vendors, and this accountability has to be provided on a daily basis or weekly basis to you in terms of like how much time the solution is saving or how much money is generating additionally. That's all you need.
Thanks for that. Dave?
I would just say don't focus on the technology. Focus on the problem you're trying to solve. And AI is not the solution for everything. I mean, it's a combination of the AI, the number of integrations, the ability to handle the dirty data. It's all those kind of things. But it always starts with what problem are you trying to solve? we focus on the fixed ops side of the business. And I think there the metrics are a lot easier to understand. I mean, it's a clear number that dealerships lose up to 70% of their customers after the warranty period. Okay, how do we get those customers back into the dealership? You can look at go in your shop at 3 PM. Is it full or is it not full? Okay, we can address that, and you can measure the impact of that. So try to identify those things that are impacting your business at the business level, and then find a solution that solves that. And as Ron said, yeah, dealers absolutely love the shiny penny. They'll get on a voice AI system, and I love that voice. I was told, hey, this one works really well because it's got like a British accent. We're selling the Mini vehicle, and that would be kind of cool. But it's like, don't worry about that. Look at the conversion rate. How effective it is at solving that customer's problem, making that customer's journey easier. So not only do they bring the car in for that service, but the next one after that, and then finally to bring the vehicle back in, trade it in, and buy a new one at the end of that service life. Those are the things that are important.
Peter, final thoughts.
Hey, final thoughts. I want to first of all thank all of the guests today. If I was a dealer sitting on this call, I would have come away with a lot of great information. I really appreciate all of you taking time out of your day. I'm looking from a dealer standpoint. I think there was a lot of great information. What I took away was 3 key things. Number one, I think what you all agreed upon was making sure before you buy a solution, you know what you expect that solution to do, what the goal of this and how it's going to help your team do a better job. Number 2, of course, I brought this up and we all talked about it, is the importance of good, clean data. But the last and probably the most important thing that a dealer should be looking at when they're looking to buy a solution or implement a solution is accountability. What does that solution have to provide? Reporting, so you can actually see if it's actually helping or if it's not. So again, I want to thank everybody for your time today. It was a very, very amazing session, and appreciate all of your time.
Thanks very much. Have yourself a great week. Sorry I didn't get everyone at the end there, but I did my best. Bye for now.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for helping the industry get better today live.